Greetings and salutations all. I.S. Anderson here once again, and I'm going to discuss the Percy Jackson series, including the first Percy Jackson and the Olympians and the Heroes of Olympus. Yes, I have finished reading The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. Yes. Briefly go into that book first. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the other ones. I mean, I've just read 9 books that are pretty much a lot like this in tone and feel and pacing, and obviously those things are all good the way Riordan does them. But the thing is, it's just like after it goes over and over and over again, it tends to get a bit repetitive, and it's just like, oh god. Might have been why I had some trouble getting through with it because I kind of felt like I had read this book already 9 times previously. I was also taken aback a bit by no Percy POV chapters, no Annabeth POV chapters. Wait, what? I mean, I understand that there were a lot of, they did 5 different characters POVs. Jason, Leo, Piper, Raina, and Nico. Now, why Riordan decided to go with Raina and Nico this late in the game, I really don't get. I mean, I know he wanted to tell her backstory, and it just seems as though there could have been a much better way to do that. But, I mean, I know people really like Raina, but I just don't see why they would bring her in this late in the game. I just don't get that, why he did that. So, also, I was a little bit taken aback by the whole death cop-out thing. I mean, there was this anticipation, one of the characters is going to die, one of the characters is going to die. But, Deus Ex Machina. I mean, okay, Deus Ex Machina is appropriate when there actually are gods in your story, I guess. But still, the whole, there's going to be a character who dies thing, and who's it going to be, and, how emotional is it going to be, and nope, it's okay. It's not quite as bad as the end of Twilight, but still. I mean, I guess I was expecting to be, the last book in the series to be on the same level with The Last Olympian. I mean, that one was really good. I mean, a lot happened in that stuff. I mean, there was, epic battles and all that stuff. I mean, there was rewards. It was satisfying. This one, it's pretty much just, there's this build up. I mean, everything. Oh my God, we're not gonna live. We're not gonna live. We're not gonna live. Everybody goes, so yay, we win. I mean, that's pretty much how it goes. I mean, it's just like doom and dread, and how are we gonna get through this up until like the last 3 or 4 chapters, and all of a sudden, yay, hooray, we win. Okay, and okay, yes, I realize this story is meant for younger audiences, and of course, there's not going to be. It's not Game of Thrones. It's not going to be real gut-wrenching stuff here, and it's meant to be lighter and fluffier, and a little bit more appropriate for children, and not shock them too much. But still, I thought we could. I was convinced it was either going to be Hazel or Frank that was going to die, because I thought Hazel was just going to have to go back to Hades to say, look, you've been living on borrowed time all this time, so you got to go back. Yeah, okay. I thought it was going to be something like that, or Frank, his stick was going to burn up, but nope, it's going to be Leo, and don't worry, because we're going to have, oh yeah, this is a discussion, by the way, not a review, so there's going to be spoilers in it, yeah, spoilers, but anyway, I mean, Leo gets killed in it, and he gets injected with the physician's cure, and so he comes back to life, even though he got burned to a charcoal briquette. I mean, to be honest, I kind of got the feeling that Riordan was kind of just like, I've written 10 books in this series already. I'm sick of it. I just want to end it and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, it is still well written. It is still the same writing quality that you would expect from Rick Riordan. But like I just said, as far as, epic finishes, it was pretty much a letdown. And it was definitely not the same quality as the Last Olympian book was. But it was a conclusion to the story. Everything got wrapped up, more or less. So, I mean, overall, if you have read, all the previous books, then you still do want to read this for yourself, just to see how it goes. Okay, so what did I think of the series overall as a whole? I really like the series overall as a whole. I mean, I love the characters of Percy and Annabeth. I mean, I even like Jason and Piper and Leo I like. And there was a lot of really cool characters. I mean, like, I like the animals in it. You know, the ones that, you know, the horses, they like to eat, you know, they like to eat gold and all that stuff. You know, we'll get them to nibble on your wings if you don't behave and all that stuff. And, you know, the cow fish thing that says, my name's not Bessie, and, you know, all that stuff, even though Percy just calls him Bessie. And it was, you know, that was all pretty interesting stuff. And I loved, you know, the epic fights in it. I mean, those, I mean, you know, I mean, it was based on Greek mythology, so of course they all have. So usually the books are them just going around epic quests, and you're just going and stopping different places. You know, like they did. That's pretty much how the Greek myths goes. I mean, something happens, so you know the hero has to go somewhere and encounter monsters, and you know use his wits out of it and get back in time. And you know, the last Olympian wasn't like that. That was just all out war. And but the Blood of Olympus, that was pretty much very much like it. And I don't know, there might be another reason why I didn't care for it too much, because it's just same old formula. I mean, it's the last book in the series. You got to mix it up a little bit, I would think, but just wasn't the way it was. Now, in case any of you are wondering, you know, how accurate are these books to the original myths? And I'd say they're pretty accurate. Rick Riordan, he definitely does his homework. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that are, you know, accurate to the story. One thing I want to bring up, the giant that was supposed to be the antithesis of Poseidon, Polybides. Probably, I'm sure I mispronounced that wrong, but anyway, as many of you probably don't know, he was actually Medusa's father. Yes, seriously, he was Medusa's father. I do think I did mention that in my video about Medusa way back when. It was one of the mythology times. But yes, he was actually Medusa's father. So, and he did come from the sea, so it was very fitting that he was chosen as to be, you know, the giant that's supposed to be to destroy Poseidon. And I mean, so yeah, so that was actually very clever on Riordan's part. I really liked how he did that. And you know, Arachne, that whole thing with Annabeth and Arachne, that was good. That was one of the series highlights to me. What else was really great about that stuff? Yeah, Chiron, the Charon, yeah, Charon, the fairy guy, the one who you know, takes the dead people across. They made him into this, you know, entrepreneur type guy, you know, money grubber, and you know, which always seemed kind of strange to me, is why is this guy, I mean, he ferrets dead people across it. What is he going to do with money? I mean, he just spends his whole existence going back and forth over the river Styx, carrying dead people over there. What does he need to do with money? I mean, what does he need bribes for? I don't know. But that's how the legend goes. You know, another great aspect that I really liked about this whole series, when we finally got to see Camp Jupiter. I mean, it took, like, what? Yeah, 7 books in the series before we got there. You know, that, you know, 7 books as in, you know, the second book in the Heroes of Olympus trilogy series, I should say. But, yeah, that was all great. I like seeing how, you know, their society was set up, and how, you know, they were very much a military camp, even though Camp Half-Blood, I mean, they were training demigods to fight too, but they were a lot more, you know, liberal and free, and not so, you know, tight-fisted and organized and all that stuff. And, you know, meanwhile, the Roman legion, I mean, they did it pretty much the way that the old Romans did it. You know, it worked for them back then, you know, up until a point. But yeah, they kept those traditions. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. So, yeah, Camp Jupiter. I have to say, though, I really did like the way that they killed Octavian. I mean, it was just the build-up for it, and, you know, how he was just such an arrogant, pompous ass, and then he dies in such a stupid, heinous way. Just reminded me a lot of that last scene in Army of Darkness, where, you know, the main boss, I mean, he's on that catapult, and Ash just goes, yeah, buckle up. And, you know, it reminded me of that. You know, those of you who saw Army of Darkness, you know, the last movie of the whole, you know, Evil Dead series, you know what I'm talking about. But I wonder if Riordan watched that movie. I wonder if he watched that series. I wonder if he took the inspiration from that, you know, killing of Octavius from that. That'd be interesting. I don't know. If I ever meet him, I might ask him that question. Overall, I think my favorite books in this series would be The Last Olympian, Mark of Athena, definitely very good. Like The House of Hades a lot. That was pretty interesting. I mean, same formula, but it was still, you know, but it was at least one place, and it was in Hades, which was pretty cool. And I think Battle in the Labyrinth. Yeah, that was pretty good too. Okay, one thing I would like to bring up while we're doing this discussion of Percy Jackson and the whole Heroes of Olympus thing. There are a lot of people out there who have been comparing Percy Jackson and the Olympians to a certain series that is very near and dear to my heart. Yes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh no, they're nothing alike." You people don't know what you're talking about. They're not. I mean, to say that they don't invite comparison would be pretty stupid on my part. So, I mean, of course they invite comparison, both based on mythology. They both deal with an ancient evil awakening and causing havoc, and the good guys have to go and stop them. And I mean, and Ryder and I, we both do our homework. We both I mean, we do a little bit more than just skim over some names and just throw the names in there and just throw in a bunch of fights. I mean, no, we both do our homework. We both do our research. We both try to integrate the real mythology into the stories as much as we can while making them our own. So yeah, I can understand why people would look at my series and say, oh it's Percy Jackson for adults, but that's really not what it is. Now, I'm not picking on any one person individual. There's a lot of people that say this. Yes, Modern Disciples is Percy Jackson for adults. That's what a lot of people say. A lot of people say it when they first read the cover and they say, oh, it's like Percy Jackson. Well, like I said, they do invite comparison, but they are much different stories. I mean, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Heroes of Olympus, that's pretty much a coming-of-age story. I mean, you start with the characters when they are very young, and you see them progress up through their teenage years, and their story pretty much ends right before they become full-fledged adults. And Modern Disciples, on the other hand, they're already adults when the story first starts. I mean, so that's one main difference. But again, everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, it's Percy Jackson for adults." Well, the difference is they don't just stop there. I mean, yes, there's also the fact that Riordan likes to take on one pantheon, one particular mythology at a time, while I will throw them all in the meat grinder together just to see what happens. Also, with Riordan's stories, and again, this goes back to, he's writing for a much younger audience, and I'm supposed to be writing for a much more sophisticated one. I mean, his stories are pretty simple, straightforward. It's just, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, they fight, the good guys win eventually. It's just a matter of how exactly are they going to do it, and is there going to be any price to pay? Probably not. Again, kid story. Mine, it's more okay. Here's some good guys. Here's some okay guys. Here's some good guys. Here's some okay guys. Here are some people that are worse. They have motivations that the average person wouldn't really be too keen on. But on the other hand, you can kind of understand why they take this stance. I mean, they do kind of have a right. I mean, it's not like they just are doing it just to be jerks. Well, I mean, some of them are, but so, I mean, and then you have, people who are sort of stuck in the middle of it. And then you have the whole question of, well, if I am going to be a god one day, I mean, do I have more rights than the average person? And there's also, different themes of, direction and trust and maturity. I mean, my stories are a little bit more complicated than his. Now, as you may or may not know, Rick Riordan, he has a new series coming out this October. It's called Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. So it deals with all the gods of Asgard, Thor, Odin, Loki, those guys. And of course, I already have, those guys in my stories. But still, Riordan's going to do a whole series based around, the gods, the Norse mythology, which it should be pretty cool. It should be pretty interesting. Now, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised that he is going to do a series like this. I mean, not terribly, because I do know that he started out with Norse mythology. I mean, anybody who's watched, interviews that he's done before, he got into writing because he used to be a big Tolkien fan and all that stuff, and so his teachers tried to get him interested in other stuff, and by telling him, well, all this was based on Norse mythology, which it was, which Tolkien's work is based a lot on Norse mythology. Elves, humans, dwarves, all being in the same realm, and elves being these, these fair-faced, almost fairy-like people with pointed ears that go around in the forest and are good archers, and dwarves being, the small people that live underground and are very good craftsmen, or very good at building stuff like that. You might think that Tolkien and Dungeons and Dragons invented all that stuff, but nope. It all goes back to Norse mythology. But anyway, my point is that was Riordan's first taste of mythology. And so it makes sense that eventually he would get into Norse mythology. But why didn't he do that first as opposed to, say, Greek and Egyptian? Well, for one thing, a lot more people know more about Greek myths and probably Egyptian mythology than they do the Norse mythology. It depends on who you're talking about, but I think mostly in America, we know mostly Greek mythology. We know some about Egyptian mythology because we learned some of that in school. And I think a lot of people also have a fair amount of knowledge when it comes to Norse mythology because of the Thor movies. So a little bit more people are getting into that. People who are big manga and anime fans probably know some things about Japanese mythology, but for the most part, I think most people living in the Western world, at least as far as America goes, which is where Riordan is from, most of their mythology knowledge comes about Greek mythology. But now the main reason why I am a little bit surprised that he did a Norse mythological series is because Norse mythology has a lot of dark stuff in it. It has a lot of dark stuff. There's people aside from people getting killed and, people fighting giants and getting killed and, all this stuff, and Freya's always trying to get married off, or, they're always trying to marry off Freya to somebody. It's usually a giant saying, let me marry Freya or else, and, Thor has to bail her out. But anyway, there's that, plus there's the whole, Balder getting killed thing, plus there's, but the thing that makes it the darkest of all, it's a lot of Norse mythology is centered around Ragnarok, which is their equivalent to Armageddon. It's basically their whole story about the end of the world. And that's a really big part of a very big part of Norse mythology. So it just makes me think, is this going to be, geared towards younger children like his books usually are? Is it still going to be like the middle grade range? Just how far is he willing to take it? Is Ragnarok even going to be a part of it? I'm sure he's going to mention it. He would have to, but is the main series going to center around that? Does Magnus Chase going to have to basically stop Ragnarok from happening? Or is he going to have to survive it or anything like that? Now, apparently the first book in that series is going to be called The Sword of Summer. Now, there is one theory I saw in this that people think that the Sword of Summer is supposed to refer to the Sword of Surtur. And, Surtur, he's like the ultimate fire giant, and he is a big component of Ragnarok. He basically, one of the things that happens at the beginning of Ragnarok that kind of signals the beginning of Ragnarok is, he finishes forging his sword. His sword is finally ready, and that's when it's time for Ragnarok to begin. So apparently he's been working on it for the past, infinity years. And then when he finally finishes it, that's supposed to be one of the telltale signs of Ragnarok, or at least one of the things that's supposed to happen at the beginning of it. So, does the Sword of Summer refer to that sword? It very well may. That is interesting, but the thing is, that sword is supposed to be, ferreted away in the realm of Muspelheim, where, basically only the fire giants can even survive it. But anyway, that's a story. Maybe I'll get into that sometime in mythology time. But anyway, that's just one theory going around. So the story could center around Ragnarok, but still, like I said, that is a very dark place to go. And I don't know how far Riordan's going to be willing to go, to maintain his audience. So, obviously he's going to hold some things back. I don't really think he can be completely honest about it. I know he can say, it's this big thing that's going to happen, it's going to end the world, and the good guys got to stop it. Okay, fine. But, is he really going, but how far is he going to go with it? Is he really going to show it, or is, are the heroes just going to stop it, and then, or is it some of it going to happen, and then, then the heroes stop it? So there's the whole question of it. Now, for those of you who read my books, you know that Ragnarok is pretty much, it pretty much does sound like the end game. So you're wondering, how far am I going to go into it? Well, not to spoil my own series, but let me just say, yes, it will happen. Now, of course, I'm not going to get into how it happens. I'm not going to get into why it happens. I'm not going to get into what is the impact of it. I'm not going to get into whether or not the world survives the whole incident. I'm not going to get into, does anybody, rise from the ashes to stop it, or do any of the Norse gods actually survive it? I'm not going to reveal any of that, but let me just say that it's not going to be a happy-go-lucky, oh look, everything's sunshine and rainbows when everything's done. It's going to be a little bit more, it's going to be a lot more like Game of Thrones ending rather than, a Percy Jackson and the Olympians ending. Let's just say that. So to just sum up what I'm saying, yes, my series, Modern Disciples, is similar to Percy Jackson and the Olympians, but they are very different. And, to just say that Modern Disciples is a adult Percy Jackson is oversimplifying it best. Again, I'm not picking on any one person because a lot of different people have said that. So I just want to make it clear, yes, they're similar, but no, I wouldn't say they're the exact same series, only for a slightly different audience. But that is my thoughts on the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series and the Heroes of Olympus series. Hope you enjoyed that. As always, I'll leave my pertinent contact information down below in the abyss. And, if you have any, please comment, rate, subscribe. You know the drill. And if you have any, if you have any questions for me about what I think about the series as a whole, anything specific you'd like me to answer, feel free to ask. And until next time, this is Is Anderson saying, everybody, make your lives grand and have a good day. Thank you very much.